Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Gwendolyn Brooks and her poem, One Wants a Teller in a Time Like This. A little bit of background on Gwendolyn Brooks. She was born in 1917. She was born in Kansas, but grew up primarily in Chicago in a poor Black community. Um, and she started writing poetry young, pre-teen, teen years. She was out there writing. Her mother encouraged her to keep writing. Um, and she lived to be 83 years old. She died in the year 2000. But in addition to her poetry, she left a legacy of mentoring young Black poets and helping them develop their writing skill. She talks a lot about her own personal situations and also social themes of the times that she grew up and what it was like being in the inner city of Chicago. She was the first African American to win a Pulitzer Prize for poetry. Annie Allen was the poem that she wrote for that. But today we're going to look at one of her poems called One Wants a Teller in a Time Like This. And as you read it, you realize that it's a bit of a free verse poem. There's no rules to it. And that's something to think about. Why are there no rules? What is she trying to say through that? It says, one wants a teller in a time like this. One's not a man, one's not a woman grown to bear enormous business all alone. One cannot walk this winding street with pride, straight-shouldered, tranquil-eyed, knowing one knows for sure the way back home. One wonders if one has a home. One is not certain if or why or how. One wants a teller now. Put on your rubbers and you won't catch a cold. Here's hell, there's heaven. Go to Sunday school. Be patient. Time brings all good things, and cool, strong balm to calm the burning of the brain. Behold, love's true and triumphs, and God's actual. It's a poem that you may have to look over or read more than once, and it's perfectly fine. I recommend most poetry that you read, you do read more than one time, and that you mark up and think about and make notes. But looking at this one, we're seeing a young person and their call out for help during this period of growing up, which can be difficult. And our speaker's not really sure what home is or if they even have access to one. So they're trying to figure out home is where you belong. They're not sure exactly where they belong. The teller who begins speaking in the last stanza is a person who can give help, advice, comfort. And we were saying before that this was a free verse poem, so there's no real strong rules to it. And you might have noticed that it was unique. That one line, one wants a teller in a time like this, it stands alone. So that gives it loneliness or an isolation, which ties into how the speaker of the poem was feeling. We also see towards the bottom of the poem, the second to the last line is behold, which is also standing alone. And it makes you think about why. The teller wants to stop the young person's worries and cool, strong balm to calm the burning of the brain. There's a bit of a rhyme scheme. In the beginning, the second stanza, grown and alone are B and B. The next stanza is CC, DD with pride, eyed, home, home, rhyming, followed by EE, how and now. Only two lines don't have a rhyme. One wants a teller in a time like this, and strong balm to calm the burning at the brain. So the first one I mentioned, one wants a teller in a time like this, it doesn't rhyme, which shows, again, the loneliness, the isolation it feels. And then strong balm to calm the burning at the brain. Well, that one's not rhyming either, and it seems that the person has interrupted the teller with a concern, so it makes sense that this rhyme would kind of interrupt the other rhymes throughout the poem. You might notice a little bit of the punctuation. Notice that without quotation marks around the final stanza, we can't be sure if the teller is actually speaking to one or if these are simply the kinds of assurances that one wants to hear. Throughout the poem, the speaker's kind of complaining and talking about uncertainty. So one wonders if there's someone who could tell them what to do and what to believe in. Wouldn't it be easier if someone could guarantee that heaven, hell, or God are real? But the lack of quotation marks implies that one might be making this speech up in his or her head. So lots of just different little things to think about throughout this poem. An amazing author, and this has a universal theme that ties into any of us when we're lost, when we're lonely, when we're trying to figure out who or what or where we are.